and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. U.S. President Donald Trump says he's not planning to extend a pause on tariffs and explains his administration will soon notify other countries. South Korea's top trade negotiator returned after his week-long trip to Washington for the first trade talks under the new Lee administration. The head of the UN's nuclear watchdog says the United States strikes on Iran's nuclear sites fell short of causing total damage, and that Tehran could be enriching uranium in a matter of months. Squid Game Season 3, which was released on Friday, ranked first in the Netflix TV show category in 93 countries around the world, a day after it was unveiled. As the tariff pause deadline set by President Donald Trump looms, the U.S. leader is now hinting that there will not be an extension beyond July 9th, when the negotiating period for countries expires. Our Kim Bo-kyung starts us off.
With just over a week to go before the 90-day extension on tariffs ends, President Donald Trump said he does not expect a further extension and said his administration will soon send notifications to countries.
But we're going to be sending letters out starting pretty soon. What we're going to do is we're going to send, and we're going to say, congratulations, we're allowing you to shop in the United States of America. You're going to pay a 25% tariff or a 35% or 50% or 10%.
The U.S. president was speaking in an interview with Fox News, which was taped Friday and broadcast Sunday. His words suggest that a reciprocal tariff of up to 50% could be unilaterally imposed, while certain countries will have a basic tariff of 10% imposed on them. He mentioned Japan as well, saying a letter could be sent to Tokyo. Trump emphasized that it is unfair that Japan does not import many U.S. cars while the U.S. imports millions of Japanese cars. When it was put to him that American car manufacturers do not want Japanese and Korean car companies to face lower tariffs than they do, he said that it would not happen, adding that U.S. car makers are too busy selling cars in America to even worry about it. Meanwhile, South Korea's top trade negotiator Yoh Han-gu, who returned on Sunday from a week-long trip to Washington for the first trade talks under the new Lee administration, said a certain level of trust has been built to accelerate negotiations. According to Yoh, after he met U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, Washington again showed interest in Korea's participation in the Alaska LNG project.
Under the new administration, a channel for conducting negotiations with the U.S. has now been established. As for the Alaska project, the U.S. has continued to show strong interest and hopes that Korea will participate.
He added that Seoul will seek the most suitable approach for the country's national interest while closely monitoring the political and economic developments in the U.S. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
The head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog says Iran could be enriching uranium again in a matter of months. The comments contradict U.S. President Donald Trump's remarks that Iran's nuclear ambitions have been set back decades after U.S. attacks. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
Iran could begin uranium enrichment again soon, despite the recent U.S. bombardment of its nuclear facilities. That's according to Rafael Grossi, the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, in a CBS News interview on Saturday. Grossi said that Iran has retained the capacity to resume parts of its nuclear program sooner than many expected, saying that the country could be enriching uranium in a matter of months. That contradicts U.S. President Donald Trump's repeated claims that Iran's nuclear ambitions had been set back decades following a U.S. bombing mission on June 22nd. Trump said that the attack, dubbed Operation Midnight Hammer, obliterated Iran's underground enrichment facilities. However, Grossi believes some are still standing. He also raised concerns over the location of an estimated 408.6 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% purity. Grossi says while some may have been destroyed by the U.S. attacks, some of the uranium could have been moved. Meanwhile, in a Fox News interview aired on Sunday, Trump said he may lift sanctions on Iran if they demonstrate peaceful behavior and cooperate with Washington. The U.S. president said if Iran is not going to do any more harm, he would take the sanctions off. He stressed that adding sanctions relief would make a big difference for Tehran. Trump also rejected claims that Iran moved the enriched uranium before the U.S. strikes, citing the material's weight and logistical challenges. 이승재, Arirang News.
The Lee Jae-myung administration is further taking shape with the presidential office unveiling nominations for 6 cabinet ministers on Sunday. The picks will round out President Lee's teams on the economic and judicial front lines. Our presidential office correspondent Song Yu-jin reports.
The second round of President Lee Jae-myung's cabinet picks was based on, as the presidential office puts it, expertise and innovation. On Sunday, veteran bureaucrat Koo Yoon-chul was named finance minister. He previously served as the ministry's second vice minister, budget director, and head of the Office for Government Policy Coordination.
Koo is considered the right person to chart a path for Korea's growth with deep expertise in public finances and overall policy making.
Ruling Democratic Party lawmaker Chung Sung-ho has been selected as Justice Minister, a position central to delivering on President Lee's campaign pledge to reform the prosecutor's office. Chung is known for his broad understanding of judicial reform, built over 5 terms in the National Assembly. Fellow DP lawmaker Yoon Ho-jung has been chosen to lead the Ministry of the Interior and Safety, another key post in the administration's efforts to reshape the prosecution system. The plan is to review the separation of the prosecution's investigative and indictment powers by creating a new agency within the ministry to oversee investigations. Other nominees include Lee Jin-suk, former president of Chungnam National University as education minister, Kim Jong-kwan, president of Doosan Enerbility as Minister of Trade, Industry and Energy, and Chung Eun-kyung, former commissioner of the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, as health minister. This leaves only the land and culture minister posts yet to be named. For the 2 vacant senior secretary posts at the top office, Chun Sung-hwan will serve as senior secretary for public engagement and social cohesion. The position has been renamed from senior secretary for civil and social agenda to highlight the president's focus on building national unity.
John has played many roles, from civic activism to serving as the head of public institutions and as a local government official, working to bring the quiet, often overlooked voices in our society into policy making.
Prosecutor-turned-lawyer Bong Wook has been appointed Senior Secretary for Civil Affairs, a role expected to serve as the control tower for the prosecution reform initiative. Lee's initial pick, Oh Kwang-soo, withdrew over allegations of receiving loans under other people's names. Also announced were several vice ministerial appointments, including Lee Dong-soo and Kim Ho-hong as deputy directors of the National Intelligence Service, as well as Lee Jin-soo as vice justice minister. So among Sunday's announcements, the minister nominees will face confirmation hearings at the National Assembly, though their appointments will be decided by the president. Song Yu-jin, Arirang News.
So as we heard, the IAEA chief says it's clear that the U.S. attack on Iran's nuclear sites caused severe but not total damage. For more on this and the situation in the Middle East, we're joined by Professor Mohamed Gura, Professor of Middle Eastern Studies at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. Professor Gura, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So there seems to be different assessments regarding the impact of the U.S. attack on Iran's nuclear sites. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, actually, it's very interesting what's happening right now. There are lots of speculations and there are lots of, I would say, misinformation also floating in the air. We are in a highly volatile situation right now when it comes to the next steps, or whether the reaction of U.S. or Iran or Israel. I think what we should be targeting is to see what Netanyahu is going to do, because it's clear that Trump is not going into several or more strikes against Iran again, or more offense against Iran again. He's trying to bargain his way with Iran and trying to make Iran come to the table to sit for negotiations. Iran, I don't think they are in a good situation also to have more problems at this stage. So Netanyahu is the key player right now in the Middle East, and we have to look at and see what will happen to him in the next few, I think, days or weeks even. But I anticipate maybe some cyber strikes, some covert actions happening in Iran. But let's wait and see.
Right, so you just said we'll have to see what happens over the next few weeks. But do you think the ceasefire will continue to hold? Is the war between Israel and Iran really over?
Yes, well, we can definitely say this is only a pause, and not there is a peace happening. This is not the case. We have a pause. All the players in the Middle East right now, they have very high bargain and very high stakes at this stage. Again, Israel is the clear player. Israel is so far the initiator of many things happening in the Middle East. I think Netanyahu is trying to, really make what he said he will do 2 years ago, that he is trying to reshape the Middle East. And he's actually right now reshaping the Middle East. Whether it's good or bad, we have to wait and see still. But the ceasefire, well, I think for the next few weeks, it will try to remain, but still we have to see if Netanyahu have any sudden moves that can endanger the very fragile peace or very fragile pause that we have right now.
I see. And Israel, Iran, and the United States all claim to have won this war, but who really gained what from this conflict, do you think?
That's a great question. This is a very peculiar situation. Everybody's claiming victory. For U.S., of course, it was not. It goes on with the same direction that U.S. wanted to do to make Iran incapable of developing a nuclear weapon. For Israel, is the same. But for Iran, I would say it's a little bit confusing, at least for me. The claim that they have won because Israel was not able to do all the agenda is something that's very peculiar. I don't think this is a win for Iran, because although Iran can still, develop its nuclear capabilities within months or years, but it's definitely not a victory for Iran. So I would say the clear winner here I would say Israel and Gulf countries. Definitely, they won a lot from this, conflict in the Middle East.
You see, and President Trump said American and Iranian officials will talk soon, but Iran's foreign minister recently said there are no such plans. Why are their statements at odds, and will Iran return to nuclear talks with the United States?
Well, there are two explanations here. The first explanation is that this is Trump's way. Trump is trying his best to, pressure Iran into sitting with him, into having a deal. This is what Trump is always thinking about making a deal. So this is a very, very good explanation. I think that Trump is trying to tell them, we're here, we're ready, let's try to make it again. However, it's hard because Trump himself, he was the one who decided not to remain at the nuclear deal that was happening at Obama's time. So it's maybe for Iran, they have to think twice about this offer. And another way is to say, to tell, or for Iran, is that Iran is doing actually some negotiations through some back channel doorway, like for instance, Oman mediated negotiations, but still up to now, it's not clear for the public. So we will know about it, I'm sure about this in the next few days or weeks, definitely.
Right, and how will the Israel-Iran conflict affect the broader Middle East, including the war in Gaza?
That's a great question. Of course, we have to wait and see. What's happening right now is that even when we talk about Iran and talk about its links in the Middle East, like Hezbollah and its arms in the Middle East, Hezbollah and Hamas and all this, all of the links are now in a very weakened position. And we have seen in the last 3 days how Israel is now targeting top Hamas leaders and Hamas capabilities is now in a very bad situation. So I think what will happen right now is that Hamas will try, rationally thinking, but of course, rational thinking in the Middle East might be something that's very hard to do. But rationally thinking is that Hamas will try its best to get a deal and to finish the situation that they are now facing, because they cannot continue with this situation right now. For Hezbollah, also, we have now some high-stakes negotiations in Lebanon. U.S. is sending its envoy to Lebanon to have negotiations, and they are developing a step-by-step policy towards Lebanon. So I think we will have to wait with the Middle East and see what will happen in the next few days or weeks, but definitely something big is coming, definitely, by all means.
Right, we'll have to see how it goes. All right, Professor Gura, thank you so much for your insight today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
President Lee Jae-myung will meet with leading figures in the cultural sector on Monday to discuss ways to promote Korea as a global cultural powerhouse. Invited to the presidential office in Yongsan are 5 prominent artists, including musical writer Park Chun-hyu, who wrote Tony Award-winning Maybe Happy Ending, soprano Cho Soo-mi, and ballerino Park Yun-jae. The top office says the president will be listening to their voices on ways to support artists and their activities, as well as ways to promote overseas K-art. The newly released 3rd season of the popular Netflix series Squid Game has topped the OTT platform charts in 93 countries within a day of its release. According to Flix Patrol, a global OTT ranking site, on Saturday, Squid Game Season 3, which was released on Friday, ranked 1st in the Netflix TV show category in 93 countries. With 10 points given for every country a show ranks 1st, the South Korean drama series earned 930 points. First released in 2021, the show became the most popular series in Netflix history. A talented teenage composer is seeking to blur the boundaries between traditional Korean musical instruments and contemporary musical compositions. Our Iuni has a story.
19-year-old classical music composer Hanurij has unveiled his first traditional Korean music piece. He won the Bartok World Competition in Hungary when he was just 18. This young talent has also written a commissioned piece for pianist Lee Myun-chan, the youngest ever winner of the Van Cliburn International Piano Competition at just 18 years old in 2022. Now Lee has entered a completely new territory by composing his first piece for Korean traditional orchestra, a bold step that bridges tradition and modernity and breaks down the walls between Korean and Western music. The opportunity came when conductor Choi Soo-yeol, currently serving as the principal guest conductor of the Seoul Metropolitan Traditional Orchestra, invited Lee to write a piece. Choi describes the Korean Traditional Orchestra as a branch of contemporary music, a special genre that allows us to express the present through ancient instruments. Hanurij's debut in the genre came to life through the Seoul Metropolitan Traditional Orchestra's concert, filling the Sejong Center for the Performing Arts on Thursday night with the richly layered and resonant sounds of kugak, Korea's traditional music. In an interview with representatives from the Sejong Center, Lee described his piece as an attempt to construct an entirely different kind of sentence using the vocabulary of kugak, one that unfolds loosely, hazily, without clear peaks or dramatic climaxes. Hanurij, premiering his work Unselected Ambient Loops 2525, his debut composition for a Korean traditional orchestra, experimentally explores the unique tones and sonic possibilities of traditional instruments. Quoting him, in this piece the loop functions more like a memory, fading, warping, and merging into new contexts yet never entirely vanishing. As pianist Lee Myun-chan puts it, he's one of the most outstanding composers of our time. The future of the music world isn't just bright, it's dynamically unpredictable. 이은희, Arirang News.
Now let's take a look at some stories from around the world with our Ji. Good morning, Ji.
Good morning, Anji.
So, Ji, let's begin with the aftermath of the recent fighting between Israel and Iran. Fill us in on this.
Right. Iran's judiciary says Israel's airstrike on Iran's Evin Prison last week had killed dozens. An official from Iran's judiciary said on Sunday that 71 people were killed in the Evin Prison strike on June 23rd, which included administrative staff, political detainees, and nearby residents. The strike targeted the prison's entrance and administrative areas, leaving visible damage to buildings and surrounding areas. Evin Prison is known for housing political prisoners, journalists, academics, and foreign nationals. Some detainees were relocated after the attack. France, whose citizens are also held there, said the strike endangered foreign nationals and demanded proof of their safety. The June 23rd attack came a day before the ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Israel's defense ministry had said it was attacking regime targets and government repression bodies in the heart of Tehran. Tensions in Serbia escalated over the weekend as anti-government protesters clashed violently with riot police in Belgrade as they called for snap elections and an end to President Alexander Vucic's 12-year rule. Tens of thousands of people gathered after months of nationwide anti-corruption and student-led demonstrations, with protesters hurling flares and rocks at riot police stationed around government buildings and elsewhere. Police responded with pepper spray and forcefully broke up groups in multiple locations. Several dozen protesters were detained, while at least 6 officers sustained injuries during the confrontations. Opposition activists and students have intensified their campaign demanding early parliamentary elections and accountability following the deadly Novi Sad railway station canopy collapse last November that killed 16 people. Protesters blame corruption for the disaster. Serbian President Vucic denounced the clashes, saying protesters were attempting to topple Serbia but failed. An intense heat wave continues in southern Europe, with countries issuing health warnings amid rising temperatures. Spain is currently experiencing the worst of the heat, with record high temperatures reaching the mid-40s Celsius in Seville and neighboring areas. A new record for June of 46 degrees was set on Saturday in the town of El Granado. Daytime and nighttime temperatures are expected to remain high through at least July 1st. Portugal and southern France are also experiencing record high temperatures of nearly 43 degrees, prompting wildfire alerts and health advisories. Italy, the UK, and Germany are also under heat and health alerts. Southern regions are expected to continue to see intense heat into early July. Beijing showcased the world's first 3-on-3 soccer match on Saturday, played by 4 teams of fully autonomous humanoid robots driven by AI. The robot players were equipped with optical cameras and sensors that detect the ball from up to 20 meters away with over 90% accuracy. The game was structured into 2 10-minute halves, featuring a deep reinforcement learning AI that made real-time decisions on passing, shooting, running, and strategy without any human control. Robots were able to recover from falls and display dynamic movement. Organizers said the event showcased a real-world test of robot endurance, agility, and AI-driven technology.
Hope the heat didn't keep you awake last night. The muggy air lingered overnight, with Seoul recording on its 4th tropical night in June since records began. A tropical night was also seen in places like Gangneung and Daegu. In fact, the scorching heat will continue today, with heat wave alerts remaining in place for most parts of Korea. Expect scattered showers this afternoon in the capital area and Gangwon-do, with 5 to 20 millimeters in the forecast, along with thunderstorms. So the central region will be a bit cloudy, while the southern region see more sunshine. UV rays in Busan and Ulsan could reach the highest level, so stay safe. And by this afternoon, Seoul, Chuncheon, Busan will be reaching up to 30 degrees Celsius, Daegu hotter at 35 degrees. Looking ahead, scattered showers are also expected tomorrow, and the hot weather is forecast to continue for the time being, with monsoon rain taking a break this week. Please stay safe and hydrated in this intense heat.
Now that's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.
Building a sustainable tomorrow. Connect, innovate, and prosper. Connecting goods to goods, region to region, people to people, generation to generation. Facilitating innovation for all, closing the digital divide. Building an inclusive technology ecosystem, promoting digital innovation by deepening dialogues on AI. Achieving shared prosperity, addressing global challenges. Energy transition, climate change, population decline, and pandemic responses. APEC-related events continuing in Seoul, the capital of the Republic of Korea, where diverse cultures blend. Jeju, the beautiful island, blessed with UNESCO Natural World Heritage Sites. Incheon, the vibrant international city, central hub, connecting Asia-Pacific. Busan, the largest maritime city, centering around maritime trade and the logistics industry. And Gyeongju, the city hosting the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting, where 2,000 years of profound history and modern, trendy, and youthful energy blend in a perfect balance. Here, a new chapter of economic exchanges will unfold for a better future.
Arirang TV is conducting an overseas TV viewer survey to provide you with a better global broadcast service. Share your valuable feedback on the Arirang TV website www.arirang.com or mobile application. Survey participants will be selected at random to receive special gifts. 2025 Arirang Overseas TV Viewer Survey. We look forward to hearing from you.
here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Monday, June 30th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Park Ki-eun.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you too. And Julian Kim is also with us.
Monday.
Happy Monday. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. It's Monday, and we're kicking off the week with a conversation that will hopefully give everyone a little boost. Today, we're diving into the happiness index, asking whether young people today are truly happy and what we can do to feel happier. So we've hit the halfway mark of the year, so it feels like the perfect time to pause and check in with ourselves. How happy are we really? So Ki-eun, would you say you're happy?
So far, so happy. Yeah, I would say I'm pretty happy with my life.
Okay, good to hear.
Yeah, I'm quite content. In terms of happiness index, I would give myself 8.5 out of 10.
Wow, that's really high.
It's pretty high. I'm sure many of our viewers will be surprised, just like our two panelists and Soo-jin, you as well. In fact, it's actually much higher than the actual happiness index of South Koreans of 5.951, according to the 2023 World Happiness Report. And the reasons behind my relatively high score would be trying to feel satisfied with the things I actually have rather than things I don't have or I want to have. And it's really easy to fall into this trap of comparing yourself, especially through social media. And one way of actually trying to stay happy was quitting and refraining from doing social media. So I don't really do much social media, and that's really helped me to detach myself from comparing myself to all these other people who live like extravagant, lavish, like fruitful lives. And another way to stay happy is by eating well and staying fit. Now, trying to maintain these two things while working hard, trying to make a lot of money, keeps my life very busy. So it helps me to not think about being too anxious and thinking too much about my future, like where am I headed? So that happens when you have too much time and energy on your hands. So what I do is I try to stay very busy by trying to eat well and staying very fit.
So you mentioned you got rid of social media, and I think that really does help get rid of like unnecessary comparisons, and that's also why I actually have two accounts. One of them is a Finsta. So a Finsta, that from where I don't follow people on that. Okay. So that kind of like forces me to not see like other people's stuff, so I don't compare myself.
What about the other account?
The other account,
you follow everyone.
Right, that's where I follow everyone, so I don't go on that.
Oh, okay.
Like, only when I have to, so that kind of helps avoid those unnecessary comparisons. That's what I do.
You look very happy.
I do feel, I'm not as happy as you, I don't think, but I do feel quite happy. How about you, Julian?
Yeah, well, I try to have a positive mindset, and I do try to practice gratitude every single day. And currently, I would say I feel pretty happy. Out of 10, I would say 7 or 8. But yeah, things could be a lot worse. I started off the week really strong. I had a good cup of coffee this morning, and I get to work with some of my favorite colleagues right now, so it could be a lot worse. It's actually now been about 1.5 years since I moved to Korea, and 2025 has actually been a super eye-opening year for me so far. I've come to really enjoy life here. I gained a lot of new experiences that I never would have gotten back home in California. And yeah, I'm just genuinely very grateful to be here and to be able to grow through these experiences. I've also learned that comparison is the thief of joy, so I try to focus on appreciating what I have instead of what I don't have.
So as someone who's also experienced like moving to a different country, I'm genuinely really happy to hear that you're doing really well here in Korea.
Thank you so much.
And I think feeling grateful is one way to feel happy, so I'm glad you mentioned that. So Ki-eun, are there any stats that show whether young people are happy or not?
Yes, I do. A recent survey on happiness conducted among South Korean Gen Zs found that only 54.4% are not happy with their lives, 38.1% in the middle, and only 7.5% feeling happy. Another survey was conducted asking how happy they felt compared to their parents' generation. So let's take a look at the screen for more details. 48% of the respondents said they are less happier than their parents' generation, while only 22% said they were actually happier, and 30% saying their lives were kind of similar to theirs, their parents. We can clearly see that many young people are already living a stressful life, not being so happy with their lives, which is, I think, very concerning, considering they have so much ahead of them and more time to actually live than they've actually lived so far.
Right, those stats are quite concerning, so I hope more people can find what makes them happy. But to do so, we need to understand what is really going on. So Julian, why are young people unhappy?
Yeah, so the very same survey that we just discussed pointed to reasons like job and career stress, financial difficulties, and academic/career path concerns. Now, we Gen Zers were teenagers what felt like just yesterday, and then suddenly had to face a global pandemic. And without much time to really process or get acclimated to it, we're now expected to take on adult responsibilities. Many of us are graduating from school, navigating a more turbulent job market. And even if we do manage to secure a job, it often doesn't really feel stable. And to make things worse, inflation has made everything feel even harder. Our money just doesn't stretch as much as it used to in the past. And I could definitely empathize with this. I graduated college just as lockdowns were starting to ease, and having to work through more, I guess, uncertain conditions have made things a lot more stressful.
So like you said, I feel like we're always constantly trying to catch up, whether it's our careers or finances or just even our own expectations. So I think it's really important to have these kinds of conversations. But Kyun, what about Korea? Are people in Korea happy or unhappy?
Unfortunately not. According to the 2025 World Happiness Report, South Korea dropped from 52nd place last year to 58th this year. Now, the ranking wasn't high to begin with, but it has fallen even further. One research foundation pointed to labor-related factors as one of the reasons why Koreans are not so happy with their lives. South Korea now has the second highest proportion of low-wage workers among OECD nations, a large gender pay gap, and extremely long working hours. And in addition to this, Korean society tends to prioritize family over individualism, and this has happened from the past. But this family-centered culture that still exists can sometimes suppress personal happiness, especially for young adults, as they kind of fall in the middle of the changing generation. I mean, younger generation nowadays might not feel as like family-centered as before, but the young adults who have kids now probably feel like they're kind of in the middle, like because they have the pressure from their parents, having that needing to have that kind of family-oriented. So they have to come home after work every day, take care of the kids, but this can actually suppress their happiness at the same time. So I don't know. All these factors play a big role. It's not good to see Korea ranked 58th. I mean, it's sad, but we as younger generations should actually spread the happiness vibe. Yeah.
Especially because you are at the 8.5 scale, yes. So I guess you are the person too. So what's it like in other countries, Julian?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not just Korea too. Countries like Japan and Singapore, which share the same face and performance-oriented culture of Korea, also report having low happiness levels. Now, in these societies, people are constantly comparing and competing with their peers, and also self-monitoring too. There's actually a growing wealth gap, and the emphasis on capitalism is contributing to this issue. With the rise of social media use, we are all more exposed to the lives of the wealthy, and it's much easier to compare to yourself. And this is just a vicious cycle that really fuels our generation's unhappiness too.
So to hopefully get some insight into the secret of happiness, we'll be talking to a Gen Z from the happiest country in the world. That's coming up after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Nina Rostad, a Gen Z from Finland. Hi, Nina. Thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hi.
So Finland has been ranked the happiest country in the world for 7 years in a row, which is quite an accomplishment. So what would you say is the secret behind this?
Well, first of all, we Finns, we're always surprised to be ranked the happiest. We don't really know why we rank the happiest. But I think there are probably many factors contributing to the Finnish happiness. And to mention a few, I'd say it's about having a stable society, as well as relatively low pressure to like constantly prove yourself to others. And our culture values simplicity and contentment over constant ambition to be more. And also nature plays a large role. Like being surrounded by forests and lakes, we have like a room to have this mental clarity, I think.
Well, that's something that Korea needs to learn from as well. Now, what is your own definition of happiness, and do you consider yourself to be a happy person, Nina?
Well, for me, happiness, I think it's about feeling calm and safe in my own life, and then being honest with myself and appreciating like small daily moments. And I would say that I am happy since learning to define my own happiness instead of trying to follow someone else's path.
Great, and I'm really happy to hear that. So as someone from the happiest country in the world, what do you think young people in Korea, especially Gen Zers, need to feel in order to be happy?
Well, I think at least the young Koreans around me, they are under an intense amount of pressure from like school and work and the society in general. And I think they need more space to like be imperfect in a sense and still be accepted by their peers and families. And this like breathing room, I'd say, to focus on the present and enjoy small things and not constantly plan ahead. So just staying in the present.
Nina, this is an impromptu question. What would your happiness index be out of 10? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, listening to. I'd say it's maybe about 7 or 8. So it's not like full 10, but we're getting there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So hopefully people that are listening today can also remember to stay in the present. So thank you so much for your take today on happiness and for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We just heard from a Gen Z from Finland, the happiest country in the world according to the Happiness Index, and got to hear what happiness means to her. Now let's turn our attention to what young people can actually do to find more happiness in their own lives. So what does happiness really mean to younger generations like the millennials and Gen Zs, Kyun?
Just like what Nina said, I think surrounding yourself with nature can really make you feel much more peaceful. Human interaction is very important. That's one source of happiness, but at the same time, it could be another big source of stress. So what I do is I tend to, as a young person, I love nature. So if I need to really cool down, what I will do is just go for a little walk around my neighborhood. There are a lot of small parks around my neighborhood, and I would just walk, not thinking about anything. Leave my smartphone back at home and not really just think about anything and just look at the trees and just my surroundings. And once I actually come back from that walk, all the stresses and anxiety that I actually had before going for that walk, it just disappears. So I realized maybe it wasn't such a big deal after all. And what I wanted to say is that what truly sets the happiness countries apart is strong social bonds among members of society, optimism about the future, and tolerance. Now, as modern society has become more individualistic and competitive, it seems that maintaining a sense of tolerance and optimism in such conditions is key to being happy, especially for millennials and Gen Zs, because once they actually enter the workforce, things get really tough and competitive. And if you live in this society where there's like not much tolerance, it's hard to really survive, especially at a young age. So I think it's really important for young people to navigate through these struggles and have that strong kind of mentality by living in a society where there's higher level of tolerance from older peers.
I think living in a society with high tolerance is also, just hearing about it, I feel like it's such a source of comfort. And also, like, you've also mentioned how the importance of having social bonds. I think that's also why in Korea, I feel like there's a movement where there's more like community-based hobbies, like where people, like, for example, like book clubs, where people can meet people.
Or going for like just running, like running crews.
Right, so I guess running crew where you can run in nature would be like the way to be happier as well. Do you have anything to add to this, Julian?
Yeah, just so I agree with everything Kyun just mentioned, but just to go off of that, Gen Years really do define happiness as good relationships, financial stability, and a sense of fulfillment and achievement. And just to reiterate what we have discussed today, rather than a society driven by extreme competition and polarization, we really do need to build a society where everyone can feel stability in their lives and be able to build meaningful connections. Having a community and being able to feel more at ease is something that can really help bring happiness to ourselves.
Right, and to wrap up our discussion, let me ask a big question that everyone wants the answer to. What are some things people can do to feel happier? And I want to ask you first, Kyun, as someone who's on the 8.5 scale.
It is a tough question, and it's much easier said than done. But sometimes it's good to actually look back and reflect on how much progress and improvement you have made as an individual, instead of comparing yourself with your friends, peers, or your seniors and whatever. And if you purely just focus on your achievements and try to become a better person than the yesterday, or like a month before, or even like last year, that really can help you to really feel so much happier with your life. And it really, in terms of success, it will come eventually when the time is right. But the more you compare yourself with others, you tend to rush and like just want to get there like the other people, but then it only happens when you're ready, and by rushing, you're only going to pace yourself, and that causes just more stress and anxiety. And I feel that if you just go at your own pace, and knowing how to do that is really important, but to do that, you need to put a lot of time and effort into yourself and just enjoy time on your own, but at the same time, have really close friends. I'm talking about just one or two that you can talk to anytime. This includes family members as well, but having that kind of good community, a healthy, well-balanced community. You have your family, you have your close one or two friends, and work colleagues as well. And having a happy self can really balance out your life, and it can lead to a very happy life.
I think these are all very good tips. Do you have anything to add, Julian?
Yeah, it's something I try to really remind myself daily, but I mentioned this in the beginning of the show. Comparison really is the thief of joy. So I would say live your life as authentically you as possible. Find the little joys that truly make you happy, and surround yourself with a community that lifts you up. Now, the Dalai Lama has famously once said, the purpose of our life is to be happy. And that is something that really personally resonates with me. And at the end of the day, I really do believe that we owe it to ourselves to live the best life we possibly can.
Sujin, do you have any tips of staying happy or living a happier life?
I think all the tips that you gave were really good, which makes sense because you're in the
I'm older than you, more experienced.
Because you're in the 8.5, so
yes.
It makes sense.
And there's a reason why I said 8.5. I mean, the higher you aim for, I mean, the more you want to actually achieve. So if I say like 6 or 7, I have so much more to improve on. But then if I say 8.5, only 1.5 away from being so happy, like fully happy, perfectly happy. So I think it's just kind of like a mind game as well. I'm kind of brainwashing myself, trying to think. If you want to put it that way, I'm pretty much gaslighting myself, saying, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. So it's almost like, you know, putting a spell on yourself, which kind of helps in a way.
But I think what you said, especially about, you know, not feeling too rushed and taking things step by step, is just really a good tip as well. Because a lot of times you get really anxious trying to rush things and trying to get what everyone else seems to already have. So I think that's a good tip too, yeah.
Take your time.
Right. And it's clear that young people today are struggling to find happiness, caught in cycles of competition, comparison, and pressure, but taking small yet powerful steps, like the ones we mentioned, towards feeling a little more content in our everyday lives, like building a sense of community and simply feeling grateful for what we have, may just be where the journey to finding happiness begins. And this brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation, but News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Big thanks to Kyun.
It's always a pleasure.
To have it. And Julian.
Thank you for having me today.
And to all our viewers, thanks for watching, and we hope you have the happiest day. We are News Generation.
How to survive in Korea. Workplace. Step 1. Lunchtime. The most important morning routine is to check today's menu. Food is essential for survival. Memorize today's menu. The highlight of office life. Lunchtime. Rice in the bottom left, soup in the bottom right. The top is for the sides. The sauce and the spoon go here. This is the basic layout, but it's a bit odd to switch rice and soup. When you're done, pour the leftovers into the soup bowl. It doesn't look that appetizing, so wait until others are done eating. Step 2. Neng, nep, nenep. These are the most used expressions at work. Choose the most appropriate form. Neng, nep, nenep. Remember that the formal ne can sound a bit stiff. Did you just say yes? Absolutely not acceptable. You want to find the right word for the right occasion. Step 3. Desteria. Desteria is the oasis in the desert. Show them your character. If you're not the diligent type, get a stooky plant. Work is tough. Laugh and the whole world laughs with you. Weep and you weep alone. Stay put, like the stooky that survives in the desert. Hang in there until the end. Of course, you can always quit. You matter more than anything else.